Hello, welcome to Ian's Bricks. You may have seen in a recent video that I went to the Lego house in Billund in Denmark for a day trip. I have done this thing a couple of times before, so it's not the first time I've done this, but it was a slightly different trip than I would normally or have taken in the past. In the past I've used Ryanair. They flew from Stansted, fairly cheap flights. So what happened was earlier in the year, I think it was March, around about the time I went for my last flight, is that Ryanair stopped doing flights to Billund in Denmark, which is the really only good way of doing cheap flights to Billund in Denmark. And you could go early in the morning, come back late in the afternoon, in the evening on the same day. And I used to just basically go to the Lego store, buy a load of sets that are exclusive to the Lego store, come home again, make a day trip, make a video out of it, and just sort of enjoy the day, really. But of course, I say, once they stopped doing those flights, I'm kind of like, oh dear, am I ever going to get back to Billund in Denmark again? Well, my good friend Duncan, who I go on these trips with, has been somebody that has been using Avios points for quite some time, and he sort of introduced me to it back in March. I signed up for Avios, and I've been using sort of, when I use buy Lego or anything really online, is I'll use cashback sites like Quidco or Top Cashback, but I've also been using Avios. And when I've been buying purchases, and so I've basically racked up points over the past few months throughout this year, and I had quite a few points. And you can get points from doing your shopping online, so every time you use your links and your codes, you get extra points back from Avios themselves. I think there was a signing up sort of promotion as well, where I got a few hundred points for signing up, and also I did sign up for an American Express credit card. Now, I wouldn't normally suggest that anybody, I'm certainly not a financial advisor, so if you're not sort of used to using credit cards, I probably would advise against it. However, I signed up for the American Express credit card, and I did get some extra points with that as well for a promotion. You had to spend a certain amount over the first 3 months. So there's all these different promos and promotions, and I do now use my American Express credit card for spending most things. So I think you get a certain amount of points for every time you spend something, whether it's buying your grocery shopping or petrol or gas or whatever it is you spend, and buying more Legos, I get points for that as well. And those points fairly quickly added up, to generally, if you're based in the UK, you can get a return flight to most places, sort of short distance trips within Europe, for around about 18,500 points. I think if you go a little bit further afield, then it just costs a few more points. Certainly if you go transatlantic, it will cost you certainly more points. But I racked up 18,500 points pretty quickly, and that meant that I was able to get a trip to Billund in Denmark. My friend Duncan had got the same thing. He'd got quite a few points. He's got a lot more points than I have, and he uses Avios quite a lot and has done for a number of years, so he's very, very used to that. So back in the summer, I think it was August, I said to him, look, do you fancy a trip to Denmark before the end of the year is out? And he said, yeah, go on then, why not? And so we sort of looked at dates, when dates would suit us and things like that. He's away on a holiday here, there and everywhere. I was away as well. And we sort of decided on sort of early November. It was after the kids' holidays. It was before sort of what I would consider real bad winter weather could potentially kick in. I know last year I had a trip to Edinburgh at the end of November, and we were affected by snow. So you kind of don't want us to leave it to the middle of winter just in case there's any problems like that. So we found the date, I think it was the 9th of November, and booked our flights, and very, very easy to do. You just sort of go on Avios, you have your points already, select the flight that you want. We sort of search for days, and Sundays tended to be quite good for being able to get a return flight there and back to Billund in one day. And they actually go from London Heathrow as well, which for me is a lot easier to get to than Stansted. I almost have to drive basically past Heathrow another hour and a bit to get to Stansted Airport. So for me, it's a lot easier to fly from Heathrow. And that's what we did. We booked it all in, and all you have to do is pay £1 if you have the full amount of points that we both had, 18,500. And the beauty with flying that way, you fly with British Airways, is you do get a baggage allowance for free. Now, previously on Ryanair, you didn't get that. I know the first time I went on Ryanair, I put a bag in the hold, and it cost me, I think Ryanair charge for large bags is they charge quite a bit of money these days. You're talking sort of 30, 40, 50 pounds for a bag one way, so it can work out, you know, extra expensive if you've already sort of paid for the flights and you've got the baggage to pay for. And as well as the bag in the hold for free that you've got a decent sized bag to take on the plane, and even a small sort of handbag, laptop bag as well, so you could actually take 3 bags for free. So that again sort of goes in the favour of doing these sort of Lego trips and Lego hauls. So anyway, okay, so we've talked about Avios points. If you aren't signed up for Avios points already, then there is a link in my description. Again, it's probably only for UK based people, but if you haven't joined Avios, it's worth doing. I find that for Lego deals, buying on Avios is good, because if you spend over, I think it's £150 minus VAT, so you actually have to spend over 180, you get 10% cash back. So it's Avios points back on all of your purchases. Now, quite often, Quidco and Top Cashback will sort of do better than that, and certainly better for lower amounts of points. But you know, whenever I'm buying Lego, I always look between the 3 sites, and there are other sites as well, like Rakuten, and I think people use Complete Savings as well, which I tend not to use because it's a bit more complicated. But yeah, so there are other sites available. But they are the 3 that I use: Top Cashback, Quidco, and Avios. And so I find out which ones are the best on that particular day, and then I'll place my order, my Lego order, through that website, and that will get me the points that way. And the Avios points do tend to come through very, very quickly. I know with Top Cashback and Quidco, you're generally waiting sometimes 3 or even 4 months for those points to actually come back as money, whereas Avios points take a week, maybe 2 weeks sometimes. So yeah, they can be a lot quicker, which is great. Okay, so we've talked about the sort of the overview and the Avios points and why we were doing this trip. So as I said, the flights were from Heathrow, and Heathrow for me is around about an hour and 40 minutes away drive, and the flight that we actually went for was leaving on the Sunday at 9:45 a.m. so it was early, but it wasn't horrendously early. And we actually set off from home at 5:30 in the morning, which was very, very early. Probably didn't need to set off quite that early, but I wasn't quite sure how Terminal 5 would work. I've never flown from Heathrow Terminal 5 before. I've never actually flown British Airways ever in my life before, so it was kind of all new for me. And as well as going from Heathrow, it's quite easy to get to. Terminal 5 is actually the first airport that you get to, so for me, getting off the M25, Terminal 5 is the easiest one to get to out of all the different terminals that are at Heathrow. And we always look into parking, so whenever we go there, we could catch the train from where we live, but I always find it easy to take the car, and we looked at sort of parking options, and there was a couple of parking options. They normally have these big off-site car parks where you catch a bus and things like that, and we priced that up. That was going to be around about £25-30 for the day, which sounds a lot of money, which it is, but compared to Stansted, I remember when I flew from Stansted in March, and I think I booked it 2 months before, it was about £62-63 for the day at Stansted. So that gives you sort of a comparison. I always thought Heathrow, being closer to central London, would be a lot more expensive. Turns out, if you book it in advance, a couple of months before, it was actually considerably cheaper. So there was that option as well, but Heathrow have also got these rather fabulous pods, these driverless cars, these little sort of pods that to drive you from the car park to the airport. I sort of mentioned it to Duncan. I said, oh, they do the pods from Terminal 5, don't they? And he says, oh yeah, I've always wanted to go on those. I'm like, so have I. So we just went for that option. It was £42. So yes, it cost us a little bit more to do that, but I think it was definitely worth it for that little bit of extra money. And was split between the two of us. It meant that the parking for the day was £21 each. So that's not too bad. And again, overall, still cheaper than it would have been to park at Stansted for the day. So that kind of worked very well. Pods were great fun. Very bumpy though. They look really, really sort of sleek and smooth and sort of new and space age and that, but they really were quite bumpy once they got going. It wasn't a smooth ride at all, but yeah, very, very, very good, and just a little bit of fun to have. And just out of interest, if you ever are in Heathrow Terminal 5, you can actually just ride the pods for free. I mean, you just go to the car park and back, that's all you would do, but there's nothing stopping you. You don't have to have a special ticket or anything like that. You literally just go to Terminal 5, go to where it says the signs for the car park are on departure. It's on a lower level, you take an elevator lift down, and the pods are just there, and you can just get on them, ride to the car park, ride back again if that's what you wanted to do. So there's a little free handy hint. If you ever want to go on those, just go to Terminal 5 and just do that, because it is quite a good fun. Okay, so once we got to Heathrow, very nice airport. First time I've been to Airport Terminal 5. Nice big airport, but not horrendously busy. Plenty of places to eat. We did have lots of time. We got through security really quick. We had a nice breakfast, very relaxed. The whole day was very, very relaxed. And then we got on the flight, and interestingly, the flight was relatively busy. I was very surprised how busy the flight was. I suppose now that Ryanair aren't doing their cheap flights, a lot of people in Denmark who live on sort of mainland Denmark probably will use that flight if they want to get into and out of London, because why wouldn't they? And I did notice that the majority of people that were travelling on the flight, there's a lot of Danish people on there, and they just weren't sort of Lego tourists like me and Duncan, really. We were sort of the exception rather than the rule. I know in the past when we've gone to Billund, people have just been doing day trips like we had, so it generally was a different sort of demographic. But the flight itself, cannot fault it at all. Fairly small plane. You've got seats 3 by 3, 3 sides on one side, 3 on the other, but very, very comfortable seats. It was obviously a slightly more modern plane. You had a little USB port so you could charge your phone once the aircraft had taken off, and they even come round and give you a free bottle of water and a free small packet of biscuits as well, which you don't get anything like that ever on Ryanair or EasyJet or any of these cheap airlines. Again, service was great. The staff were fantastic. Very, very short flight. It's only an hour and 10 minutes, and we were there. So I think we got to Billund around about 12 noon. Now, because of the way that we were travelling, we had both taken bags with us, because obviously you get the bags as part of the sort of ticket price. So we'd both taken fairly large bags to the on the flight with us, which did mean that we would then have to carry those bags around. There were other options when we get to the Lego house, but I'll tell you about that later. So we did have to wait for the bags, and the bags came off. Now, to get from the airport to the Lego house, you can either get a bus or you can get a taxi. Now, getting a bus is fine, but bizarrely you have to have cash. And neither of us have decided to take any cash with us, because you can pretty much get around nowadays without having any cash with you at all. It is significantly cheaper to get the bus. I think it is equivalent to £2 or £3, probably something like that. Whereas the taxi, we did get a taxi, and they do Ubers as well over there, so if you've got an Uber app, that will work. But they worked out at about £20, so that was actually quite an expensive way of doing it. It was raining when we got there, and we just thought, oh, you know what, I can't be bothered, let's just get a taxi. So we did that. So we were a little bit lazy and got a taxi rather than get waited for the bus. And the bus was actually waiting there when we were there, but I say neither of us had any cash. There were cash point machines there, but you know what, cash point machines at airports, they just absolutely rip you off. So I think next time if I go to Denmark, I'll be I'll get some money out, probably local, get it cheap, a better exchange rate, and have some cash with me to get the bus, because it does make sense to get the bus. They kind of run all the time, every 15 minutes. It's not particularly difficult, so maybe I'll do that for the future. But yeah, we got a taxi. That took us straight to the Lego house, and we got to Lego house around about 12:15 in the afternoon, just after midday. Now, when you go to the Lego house, obviously there is sort of you can pay an entry fee, and you can go to the upstairs levels of the Lego house. That's kind of where all the play activities are, and there's a museum you can go to and all this kind of stuff. And if you haven't done that before, I would definitely suggest doing that. Now, obviously we arrived there quite late in the afternoon, so you probably wouldn't get a long time to be able to do that. I'd been in there twice before. I think they do change things every now and again, but for me personally, I just wasn't really that bothered about going back to see the same thing again. It really was all about going to the Lego shop. The Lego shop is on the ground floor, and you can go into the Lego house for completely free, and you can explore all the downstairs area pretty much where the shop is, and there's cafe there as well, and there's toilets and things like that. So you can get into the Lego house. You don't have to pay anything to get in. It's only the exhibition, which is sort of upstairs, which you would actually have to pay for. I think it works out about £30 a day, depends on the day of the week that you go and all this kind of stuff, but you can buy your tickets in advance if you wanted to do that. So definitely would suggest doing that, but for me, I'd been before and it kind of wasn't such a novel thing for me, so it wasn't really an option for me to go there. If you don't know why I go to the Lego house to get to the shop and why the shop is the main draw, it's because they do sell exclusive sets that are only available at the Lego house in Denmark. They've been doing this pretty much since they opened. I think when they opened in 2017, they've always had at least one or two different special sets that are available, and it's sort of a yearly ritual now where in around about March time they will release the new Lego set. I think they've done 6 sort of numbered exclusives so far. There have been more sets than that. I think there have been 9 exclusive sets altogether, but 6 of them have been numbered. The Fabuland set was the latest one for this year. That was number 6. Obviously in March of 2026 they'll probably do another one. No idea what that is going to be yet, but it's probably a set I will get and build, because I've pretty much built all the rest of them apart from the brick moulding machine, which is the one that I did have and I did buy, but I ended up selling all of those on because they kind of shot up in value. So that's the main reason for going there. But of course there are other reasons. I mean, they do have a normal Lego shop. It sells all the normal Lego stuff you would find in any other normal Lego shop. They do have a very, very good pick of brick wall as well. It's pretty much twice the size of anything that you would see in normal stores, certainly here in the UK. The staff are great. They're fantastic. They'll come and chat to you. You can chat to them. Yeah, it's just a nice shop to walk around. It's certainly not the biggest shop in the world. There are bigger stores in the world, but apart from sort of late afternoon, it tends not to get that busy. Certainly when I was there, it was fairly calm through the day. And I think because they're probably based in Denmark, in where Lego is sort of, or some of the Lego is made, is they do probably have access to some sets which maybe have run out of stock or aren't so much available outside of the Lego house. For example, they had things like the upscale Santa, which I know is on back order here in the UK and in Europe online. They had some of the gizmos, which are from Gremlins. They had quite a few of those in stock. One thing they didn't have any Star Wars 8080 gingerbread things with a gingerbread Darth Vader. So they didn't have any of those, unfortunately, else I probably might have picked a couple of those up. But generally you'll find that they do probably have a bit more stock of sets. And the other good thing that they do is quite a lot of the sets are signed by the designers. A lot of the designers are based within Billund in Denmark, and they'll just walk into the shop on a morning, go around with a pen and sign a load of sets. So literally just have a look. I mean, a lot of the signed sets were at the front, but some of them were behind the first set. So I was like looking through all the different sets. If you are sort of into getting a particular set and want it signed, that is really the only place that I'm aware that you can go, unless you go to sort of a special event or anything like that. So it's worth having a look around and seeing what sets are signed. If you are looking for a specific set, I know a lot of the Lego exclusive sets are signed, and they will disappear normally in the morning. So the fact that we got there at 12:15, I did think, oh, are there going to be any signed sets left? And luckily for me, there actually were a few of them actually left on the shelves, which was good to see. So yeah, and then it was just a case of deciding what to buy. So you've seen these bags behind me. I've been talking away for quite a while now. In my video that I did of the day, I did show a few glimpses of some of the sets that I actually had, but these are all the sets here in these bags, and there's a few behind the bags as well because they wouldn't all fit in. So I'll show you those in a very, very short moment. Just going through some of the sets that were available is obviously with the Lego house sets, everything's in Danish kroner. I always find Danish kroner quite difficult to translate into British pounds because it's not it's just not something I'm used to doing. I'm always sort of used to converted things into euros or American dollars just because it kind of, I don't know, it just feels easier to do that. But yeah, Danish krone is slightly odd. So they had the Lego Duck. So the Lego Duck was the original sort of numbered special set that they had. That was 599 kroner. That works out at the moment on my credit card after I'd paid it. It worked out at around about £63.30. I do use a charge-free card, which is actually my Barclay card. You'll find a lot of credit cards will charge you a fee, a percentage. I know I've got a Tesco credit card that charges me 2.5%, and my American Express card, which I talked about before, that charges me, I think, 2.75%. So I kind of avoid using those, but luckily my Barclay card's reward card doesn't charge me anything extra for using my card in a different country. So that's what I actually use. So yeah, £63.30 is what the Duck came out at. There's also the Pirate, which was the tribute minifigure, and that was coming out at the same price, 599 kroner, £63.30. They also had the building system set. I think this is a set that's now going to retire this year. At the start of the year, the Pirate was going to retire, but they've extended it another year. But they've brought forward the building system because it's just not been that popular set. I have built the set. It's okay, but it's not great. I think the Fabuland set and the Pirate are much, much better builds in my opinion. Now, that was quite expensive to start with, but that was been reduced. Now, last time I was there in March, it was reduced, but it's been reduced even further. It's now 419 kroner, which worked out at around about £44.25. They also had the Fabuland set. That was 649 kroner, which was about £68.50. And a couple of other sets which I had my eye on as well. There were some brick heads. Now, the brick heads normally here in the UK are £9.99 for the single packs. In the US and the rest of Europe, they're $9.99 or €9.99, which actually works out even better based on the sort of the current exchange rate for the UK. But bizarrely, in Denmark, they were £99.95 in kroner, which works out at about £11.90. So individual brick heads in Denmark are considerably more expensive. And another set that I noticed which was more expensive was the Gizmo from Gremlins. Normally in the UK that's £90, but in Denmark it was £899.95 in kroner, which works out at around about £95. So people sort of ask me, are the sets cheaper over there? You would think, being where the Lego sets are made, that they'd be cheaper. Not always the case, and I think depending on the exchange rate will depend on how good or how bad these sets sort of fare based on what you would normally pay. So just bear that in mind. If you are going for specific sets, it may actually be cheaper if they are readily available in other places and back home. It's probably cheaper to buy them elsewhere, unless of course it's a signed set and it's something you particularly want, or something that's on back order or sold out back home. That would be a good idea to get those particular sets. But yeah, it was interesting to sort of convert some of those prices and see how they sort of fared up to things as well. So I think what I'll do, I've been chatting for quite a bit now. Let's get into some of these bags here and show you what I got, because there's quite a few sets, and yeah, I just sort of want to sort of show you the different sets that I've got for this trip. So we do have some sets hidden away behind me there. The first one you can see, that's gonna fall on the floor. Let me just pop that down there. There we go. The first one you can see is probably the best set, and the set that I was always going to go for, and that is the mini figure tribute. It's basically the Redbeard, the Pirate. Set number is 40504. As I say, these are 600 kroner. It works out at around about £63 each for these particular sets. You see how it says limited edition number 4? That is sort of in that current series. Brilliant set this. I built one of these. It's great. I think it's everybody's favourite. Now, you were limited to buying 5 of these, so they do have limits on the Lego House exclusive sets. I know when I've been in the past before, last year, there was limited 3 on these, so you could only buy 3 of these at once, but now that limit has increased to 5, so you can buy 5 of those. So that's the first set I've got there. I've got another couple of sets hidden behind here, and I've talked about this already, and I did get another one of the building systems. As I say, not the best build in the world, but it's still a Lego House exclusive set there. There's the back of the box there, and this had been reduced vastly. You actually get a decent amount of money, Lego, for your money in this box. It's not a bad build. I just think there are better builds out there. I think on the front it looks a little bit bland and a bit plain. You get this sort of big grey wall, but behind the grey wall, and they don't really show you that, there's loads of little mini builds. I think you can just see it on the back of the box there. There's loads of little mini builds there, which are sort of a tribute to lots of old Lego sets. But say that was reduced, and it was down to around about £44 and a few pence. So that's not bad. And this is retiring this year, so this is probably one I'm going to hang on to and just see how this one does. I don't think it's going to do anything too crazy, but yeah, it's always best when a set's gone from the shelves and has completely retired. They've had quite a lot of stock in there, so I do wonder how long it's going to take them to get rid of all of the stuff that they've got, because I think they've been reducing the price. It's just not been selling at all. It's not been, for whatever reason, a popular one. So we've got another set hidden here, and it is this one, and this is a lovely little set. It's the Duck 40501. Now this is the same price as the Pirate. You get a lot less Lego for this, for your money, for this particular Duck, but it is great. The beak does go up and down when you pull it along. It's got a little tag on there. You've got wheels on it as well, and this one was signed by one of the designers. Now I think there were a couple of designers for this set, and this is just one of them. This looks like Stuart's signature, if you know who Stuart is from the Lego House. I think he's retiring soon, but yeah, nice to get one of those. I had a few of these that were signed on the shelves. I've only got one of these because I think they are quite expensive for what they are, but yeah, very nice set. And again, I have built this in the past. It is a very, very nice set indeed. Okay, we've got another bag down here, which I'll just sort of show you there. Let me just move things across a little bit. We have another Pirate there, so that's number 2, and we also have another Pirate there. So that's 3 I've got so far. You can see where this is going, can't you? Right, let's get into the other bag. Let's move this on the floor. Now, there was another set that caught my eye, and it is this set here. And I know what you're thinking. This is a set that you can get anywhere, really. You bought loads of these already. Yes, I have. This is 40799, the Monkey D. Luffy figure from One Piece. This is a set that is retiring at the end of 2025. It's only been out on shelves since the start of this year, sometimes in the middle of this year. And these are already starting to get very, very difficult to get hold of. Certainly in the UK, I was in the Southampton store the other day. They only had one in there, and online I think they've sold out, or maybe at least on back order. So they are starting to get difficult to get hold of. There is another one in this series which is Buggy the Clown, but they seem to have loads of those everywhere. But I just thought it was an opportunity while I was in this store, and I could order 5 of these, is to get some more of these. Now, they were, as I said earlier, they were more expensive. Normally, these are £9.99, £10 each. I ended up paying the equivalent to £11.90, so not the best return on investment, but I think these could do quite well once they've retired. However, that price of £11.90, it wasn't quite what I paid for all of this, and I've not talked about that yet, but we'll get to how I managed to get the prices down a little bit for these. So, I did get 5 of these all together. They've all travelled very well. Yeah, all my sets have come back okay. I was always a little bit worried how they would be in rucksacks, and I had some of them in the hold on the plane, and everything did come back okay. So there we have all the Monkey D. Luffy sets. Now, we do have another set as well, which isn't exclusive to the Lego House, but it is a set that is getting very difficult to get hold of. It was only released this year, and it's the Gremlins. It's Gizmo from the Gremlins, 21361. It's an idea set, and this is a very, very nice set. They had actually one built in the store, and it does look absolutely fantastic. This is on back order now here in the UK. Very difficult to get hold of in shops and stores, and the price of this is actually starting to go through the roof a little bit, not quite through the roof, but it's certainly a set that is very, very sought after. So I just thought it was a good opportunity while I was in there just to get one of those. I know my friend Duncan picked up quite a few of these up. He seems to think they were very, very special things to get, so we got a few of these. But I only got the one. I thought one was enough, and also I kind of need to be careful with how much stuff I was actually getting on the day. We have some more sets as well in here. We have this set, which is another Lego House exclusive, and it is the Fabuland Tribute. This is this year's special. This is nice because it was also signed by the designer on the top there. I built this set and I really, really enjoyed building this. So if you don't have this set, then I've got one here. So, but yeah, nice that I was able to get one of those signed. This is 649 kroner, so that works out. What did I say? It was about £68 for this one if you were wanting to buy this one yourself, if you ever did get yourself to the Lego House store. And we've got 2 more sets left. We've got Pirate number 4 and Pirate number 5 there. So I did get my full maximum allocation of 5 of those Lego Pirates altogether. That was pretty much it. I think the only other thing that I got on the day is while I was sort of chatting to a couple of the staff, one of the staff, the lady that served us, came over and actually gave us this tile here, which was I Heart the Lego Store at the Lego House. So it was very, very nice of them to give me this tile here. I'm actually going to be giving it to somebody else because they collect these tiles, so I won't be hanging on to this myself. But yeah, it was just nice to get something a little bit special like that. I always like to get sort of exclusive things as and when I'm at places like that. So that is pretty much my Lego haul. So let's carry on with a few more stats and figures and things, and tell you about the tax back that you can get when you go to the Lego House. There we go, I've stacked everything behind me so you can see all the purchases that I got on the day. So I mentioned about tax back. So if you are UK based and you are flying in and out of the airport, then you can claim your tax back on the items that you buy. You have to tell the people at the till at the Lego House when you place your order and you're spending your money, and what they will do, they'll do the work for you. You need your passport with you at the Lego House. And they will take your passport number. They'll do this sort of big long receipt as well to attach to the other main receipt that you get. They'll give you this little folder as well with this sort of global blue sort of thing, which is the company that sort of runs that. And just keep that receipt and then take that to the airport. Now, the way that it works, it's a little bit complicated, but you have to go to the airport, and then in the main area of the airport there is a sort of a tax customs, a little shop. It's actually where you come out when you enter the airport. When you're coming out as an arrival, that's where you come out. Bizarrely, you would think it'd be near the departures because people use it when they're going back. But anyway, there's a little thing there, a little shop there where you can sort of go in and they'll do all that for you. You have to show them the receipt. Now, quite often they will ask to see the sets that you had. In the past, we've actually had to show the person what sets we've got so they can check the receipts and make sure the sets are all there. This particular lady, she wasn't that bothered about that, interestingly. She was like, yeah, you've got Lego. If all you've got is Lego, that's absolutely fine. She was more interested if we had sort of jewellery or more expensive things like that. So for the Lego, she wasn't bothered. She was just like, oh yeah, she just sort of stamped a few things, signed it, and that was it. What you then do is you can put your bags on the plane like I did. I had some sets which sort of went into a bag and off it went into the cargo hold, and the rest of the stuffs I carried through. You don't have to go through security as you would at any normal airport, and then you go upstairs and there's another exchange place up there, and that's where you actually get your money. You can ask for it in any currency. They do give you cash. I know when they're in the Lego store they say, do you want it on your card or on cash? But actually when you get to the airport they will only give you cash, so just be aware of that. I asked for mine in British pounds, and I actually got £75 back, which I thought was quite good, and a little bit of change in Danish currency as well. I know my friend Duncan, he actually wanted to get his in US dollars because he's going to the States soon, so he got his in US dollars. I think he got 88 US dollars. He didn't spend quite as much as I did, but he got a reasonable return on that money there. So if you are doing this and you are going on a plane, then do claim your cash back, your tax back as well, because it's kind of definitely worth doing. I know I've done this in the past. I didn't think I got a lot of money. I'm sure I only got about £35 last time, but this time I probably spent a bit more money, and I got £75 back, which I thought was definitely worth having. So that was nice to get. That was a little bit of a surprise, and that £75 actually covered a lot of my costs for the journey. Now, obviously, when you're doing a trip like this, you try to keep your costs down as much as possible. So let me go through some of those costs. So the flight itself, we've talked about this before. Yes, it cost me 18,500 in Avios points, but it actually cost me £1. So the flight cost me £1. Petrol to and from the airport. It's around about an hour and a half, hour and 40 drive away for me, and I worked out that would cost me around about £18 in petrol stroke gas, whatever you want to call that. I also paid for one of the taxis as well, which went from the airport to the Lego house. Duncan paid for the other one. That cost me £20, and then parking was a total of £42, but we split that as well, and so the parking cost me £21. That was £60 in total for the general costs, which are costs that you obviously sort of can't recover, and sort of things that so you can see that the £75 in tax back that I got kind of covered all of that, and with a little bit of profit as well. Now, I did have food on the day. Now, do I include food in the price? Because I would still have to eat anyway. But I did spend £42 on food. That was basically a breakfast, a lunch at the Lego house, and then I had a dinner at the airport in Billund on the way back home. So whether you want to include that or not is disputable. I would sort of say, well, you've got to eat anyway, so you'd be spending something on food anyway, but probably not quite as much as that. But if you add that to the total, that would total cost for the day of everything of £102. Again, the tax back of £75 covered most of that, but not all. But it basically meant, that tax covered pretty much most of what I would consider to be my costs. Now, one thing that I do need to mention, and a few people brought this up in the comments of my original video when I went, when I did my video of the Lego house, was the tax threshold. Because the UK is now gone through Brexit. Boo! I'm not a fan of that, by the way. I did vote to remain, so apologies if you don't like that. But that's what I thought was a good idea at the time. But the gift that keeps giving is Brexit, and there is a threshold of the amount of goods and services that you can bring back into the UK from Europe or from anywhere of £390. Now, obviously, I spent more than that, and in the past I have been quite worried about being caught out. I know last time I went to the Lego house, I actually saved up loads and loads of my insider points and used those to buy a load of Lego, so that it meant that the Lego that I actually took home physically only cost me around about £390. However, my experience is when you go through, you get your bags at the airport back in the UK, and you go through customs, there's nothing to declare. They're really not bothered. The people there. I know you would say, oh, if you work for the tax, yes, they would be bothered. But the people, what they're looking for are people bringing too much alcohol, too much cigarettes, and obviously people bringing things like illegal drugs in or illegal substances. They're really not that bothered about a couple of blokes bringing back a couple of £100 more in Lego. And I know it should be declared. I know it's probably a bit naughty that I don't do that, but I mean, you could be honest and you could pay the tax, but it's one of those things. Nobody likes paying tax. If you don't, if you don't have to pay it, why would you? So I don't know whether you agree or disagree with me on that. I know a lot of people would say, "Oh, Ian, you shouldn't be doing that because it's naughty." But yeah, from my experiences, they're just generally not that bothered about it. I think if you were coming back in your car, I know when I've driven on the Eurotunnel through France and come back with a load of stuff, I was very, very aware to keep all of my receipts, because there'd been a few times where I've been stopped. I think they have more time to stop you and search your car when you're doing that, and to look in your car and see what you've actually got. Again, I think they're looking more for taking too much cigarettes and alcohol and all that kind of stuff, and tobacco. But I think if they did sort of spot you, they would probably pull you to one side and make you pay the extra. So I think if I was doing it by car, I would be a lot more cagey and probably keep to that 390. But certainly going on a plane, my experience is that the people at the airport just don't care. In fact, last time when I came back through Stansted, there was like a load of police through the nothing to declare. I walked through the Green Gate and there's all these police stood there, and I'm like, oh dear. And one of the policemen was like, oh, you've got a lot of Lego. And I'm like, yeah. And just sort of carried on walking. And they're not bothered. They're really not bothered. That's not what they're looking for. They're not looking for somebody with a couple of £100 extra worth of Lego. So if you are worried about that, I know it's probably a little bit naughty and I probably shouldn't do that. I shouldn't be telling people to do that. But my experience is that it's not a problem. And what's the worst thing that can happen? You can get pulled to one side and you'd probably get a little fine. You'd be told to pay the excess on the Lego. But I just don't think that's going to happen unless you look really, really dodgy, which I don't. I've got a face like an angel, as you can see. The people, they're just really not bothered about that. Because, yeah, I did have a couple of people in my last video comment on that. You should be paying, you've got ordered too much and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, well, I did. But I'm being honest and saying it probably doesn't matter too much. As I say, all the sets came back okay. I had sort of a big bag where I'd actually put the big sets in boxes, put bubble wrap around them, and everything came back okay, even though it was a soft bag. I'm actually tempted, knowing if the chances of me doing something like that on British Airways, where you can get baggage allowance again, is maybe buying a bigger bag, a hard case bag that I can fit certain amounts of sets in. I know the size of these boxes now, so I think I might invest in something like that, because the chances are I might be doing this trip certainly at least once, maybe twice again next year if I can, if I've got enough Avios points, which at the moment I do. So the chances are I'll be doing something like this again. But yeah, it was the trip as a whole went very, very well. I think our flight got back. It was quite a late flight. I had quite a lot of time to hang around in the airport in Billund, so much so I did a live stream, which went down very, very well. So thank you to all the people that took part in that. You can actually watch that back on my channel if you haven't seen that. Just go to the previous videos and live streams and you'll find that on there. And I think the flight got back in at maybe about 10 o'clock at night. By the time we got back to the car, very long walk back through Terminal 5. I always hate these big London airports. It was great going, but coming back, you're walking for miles and it just takes ages to get through everywhere. But passport control was relatively straightforward, and that wasn't too much of a problem. Yeah, we got back into the car around about 10:30, and I got home just after midnight, I think, after I dropped Duncan off. But very, very good altogether. Just one more thing to mention, which I did forget. There are new rules as well. I think from the end of October, early November, there are new things that are happening. If you're based in the UK and you're going abroad, you will be asked to scan your face and to scan your fingerprints as well. That actually worked quite well. It didn't last long. It was actually when you go into Denmark. So once you get into Europe, there are some machines, and you sort of had to register first of all. So you sort of take a face scan, you take a fingerprint scan. It asks you some fairly simple questions. How long are you staying for? Have you got a hotel to stay at or not? Of course I didn't, because I was a day visitor, so I said no to that. But you just answer a few questions, and then you actually then go through the passport control again, but then you have to have your face scanned, because they've now got your face, and do the fingerprints again, but they let you stamp your passport, send you on your way, and then you do the same thing on the way back, scan your face, scan your fingerprints, and off you can go again. And I think you'll find that if you are going to Europe in the next few months, you'll probably find that you have to do that as well. So, but that all went fine. It wasn't really an issue, and I'm now registered. So next time I go abroad, whether it's a Lego trip or something else, that was absolutely fine. There's just one more thing that I did forget to mention, is how much I actually spent. So I talked before about the tax threshold of 390. So I did actually have some points, some insider points to use, and I did use some of those points. I think I used 10,000 points, which worked out at 500 kroner off, which basically is kind of about £50 off. So I did actually use some of my insider points to lower the price of that. But even with that taken off, the Lego spend, all of this behind me that you can see here, cost me £658. So you can see I did go over my threshold by a fair bit, but not too bad. So yeah, so £658, and I did find it a lot easier on the British Airways for having a bag that you could put in your hold. I got rid of half of my sets. I did have a rucksack, a big rucksack with 2 sets in. I had a smaller rucksack with some of my bits and bobs and the smaller brickhead sets, and then I had the big bag here. This is the bag that I actually used, and it got a little bit worse for wear. We got a little bit of a hole in that there, but it held up relatively well. I know Duncan had one of these, and pretty early on the handle snapped on the bag, so he was sort of fighting with that all day. He actually had 2 bags. When we got to the airport at Billund, I think they just wanted us to have 1 Lego bag. They were quite happy with the rucksacks and things like that, but they were sort of like, oh, Duncan had 2 bags to start with, and he says, well, look, it will all fit into one. Do you want me to put it into 1 bag? And they were just like, oh no, it'll be fine. So they kind of were half thinking about, oh, are we going to let these guys through with all these Lego bags? And when we got on the flight, we actually got on fairly early. We got our bags in the overhead lockers, and it was fine, no problems at all. I know last time I was there, I had 2 massive bags, and I was carrying them in these bags sort of cut into your hands if they're really heavy. It wasn't quite as stressful as that, because I say a lot of the Lego sets had gone into my bag that went into the hold. So yeah, and that is pretty much it. A very, very good journey altogether. I mean, literally, we just went to go to the Lego store, and for me personally, just to pick up sets like this, because these are sets that are very, very popular at Lego shows and things like that, and it's just a fun day out. I just like going there. I always have a great time when I do it. I mean, it literally is just me going to a shop. That's all it really is. But you spend a whole day doing it. But it's an experience. It's definitely worth doing. Yeah, I would definitely do it again. I'm looking forward to, obviously, maybe March of next year when the new Lego set comes out, the new exclusive set comes out, to find out what that is, because they're normally quite exciting. I like to get hold of one of those. I think I'm going to continue to buy those and to build those as and when I can. So, and now I've got now I'm doing this Avios points. I mean, I've already got I think over 40,000 points again. That's taking off the 18,500 I used for this flight. I'll certainly will be doing this again in the future. Definitely worth doing from my point of view. So, and of course it means I get to be able to come back with a load of Lego as well. So it's just nice to get a few of the exclusive sets and a couple of other things as well. And Duncan was a great travel companion as well. It's always very, very easy going. I say we used to work together, so we know each other reasonably well. But yeah, we just sort of, while one of us was in the shop, the other one was looking after the bags. We could have actually used they did have some lockers there. You get a free locker, a small locker, if you go into the Lego house. Apparently they do have larger lockers if you ask for them. We were just like, you know what, it doesn't really matter. One of us will just sit with the bags, the other one can go and do their thing, come back, and it worked really, really well. So yeah, it's always good. I mean, I could do that on my own this particular trip, but it's always nice to go with somebody, because you've got a bit of company there on the flight and having your dinner and stuff like that at the airport. So all went very, very well. If you've got any more questions about the trip and any logistics, because I know a lot of people watch these videos, then I'd love to do that myself, then do ask me in the questions. As I say, if you haven't signed up for Avios Points and you're based in the UK, do use my links. I think you will also get some points for signing up for that as well, so keep an eye out for that. And if you did want to sign up for the American Express credit card, I probably won't put a link for that in the description, because I think that's slightly more, I don't want to sort of say to too many people to get it, but I know recently there's been a special offer where you got, I think, 15,000 points for signing up. Now that has ended now, but I think there is still always going to be a special offer where you get a few thousand points for signing up on the American Express card. You have to spend a certain amount of points within the first few months and things like that, but it's definitely worth looking into. And if you did want to get one of those, maybe send me a message on either Instagram or one of the YouTube videos to say I'd like to do that, and I can forward some details onto you there. But that is pretty much it for this video. I do hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm getting fairly close to 8,000 subscribers now, so I'd like to try and get that to that before the end of the year, hopefully. So yeah, fingers crossed for that. But yeah, very, very enjoyable. If you haven't done this, do try. I say if you're outside of the UK, in Europe, it's a lot easier for you to probably get to the Lego house, because you don't have to do any flights, especially if you're in sort of Germany or Netherlands. I think you can probably drive there a lot quicker. But if you're further afield, say like the States or Canada or Australia, then yeah, it's probably one of these places that you want to go to. It's definitely worth trying to get to if you can, but slightly different logistics to it than a day trip that I took if you were coming from a little bit of a further distance. But thank you very much for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed it. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video soon. Bye for now.
Thank Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.